Stop. Don't do it. Don't buy anything new. Just watch this video real quick and just don't buy anything. Today we're going to talk about 5 tips or 5 tricks that should help prevent you from buying shit that you don't need. This is mostly for me because I have to do this, every couple of weeks because I'm always wanting to get something new. I get tired of the things that I currently have, and I think that they can't make music or inspire me any longer, and so I have to get something new only to repeat the cycle. Listen, do me a quick favor before we get into this. I recently got rid of my Spotify, and I am looking for artists on Bandcamp. I'm looking for heavy stuff or experimental stuff, particularly like higher BPM because I'm running to it. But if you have anything, put it down below. I don't know how YouTube will handle the link, so maybe just put like your handle, like before .bandcamp.com or whatever. I'd appreciate that. Tip number 1, put your item in a wish list or put it in a document where you can link to the particular thing that you're looking for. I use Reverb a lot, so I'm always on there just like, I gotta buy something. And I've created wish lists, or I've saved or liked or whatever these different particular things that I want. And for whatever reason, it just sort of like scratches an itch for me and prevents me from feeling like I need to go buy whatever it is. Just by putting it in there and then putting it away, it seems to sort of do something mentally for me so that I don't feel like I need to buy it right there. It's like, okay, I've got that in the cart. It's just sitting there, and then I can move on with my life. And I know that maybe some folks might be like, oh, there's only one of them left. Just wait, because in like a couple of weeks, another one's going to show up, and maybe the prices will go down a little bit. I've really been wanting to get my hands on a Korg monopoly for like forever, and they were like wildly expensive a couple of years ago. They were like $3,500, $4,000 for, a paraphonic synth, which is crazy, but they've started to come down a little bit, and they're around like $1,500. So obviously I need one right now. I have them in my wish list. I have a bunch of them, and maybe one day I'll get one. Maybe I won't, but for whatever reason, just having it in there is doing a trick for me. So I don't know, give that a try. Tip number 2, it's sort of like a mental thing. Do you already have something that can do the thing that your new item is going to do? Do you currently have something that can already do that job? And if so, then mess around with it. Let's say, for instance, that you have a mono synth and you're looking for you want like this super big bass sound. So you're looking at like a way more expensive bass synth because that's going to take your music to the next level, and you're going to get super famous, and everyone's going to love you for your new bass synth that you have, right? No one's going to be able to tell a difference if you were to use a VST synth, if you were going to use a cheap one, if you were going to use a clone. Nobody can tell, right? Like 98% of people can't tell, and they don't care. It doesn't matter. So just don't do that. If you already have something that can do the job, stick with that. Okay, good. All right. Tip number 3 is a tip that I think that we probably all have heard before. I just got this one reintroduced to me from my friend who has a project called Both Eyes. I'll put a link in the description below. They have a project called Profit Alone, and it's super sick. It's like a development of a patch and then exploring that patch in one sort of go. And then, that's what each track is. It's really, really cool. And I enjoyed listening to it. So I suggest that you check it out. But here is the tip. Go back and read the manuals for the pieces of gear that you currently have. Or go on forum boards and read the discussions about the things that you already have. Or go back and watch a goddamn loop pop video about the gear that you currently have, and the video that you probably watched 100 times that got you inspired to get the thing in the first place, that you rewatched after you already bought it when you were waiting for the item to get shipped to you. I'm talking to myself. We could probably stack the previous tip and this tip. So if, for instance, if you're looking at something new that you already have a device that does that particular thing, go back and watch your loop hop video on that piece of gear that you already have that does an okay enough job, right? Or go look at forum discussions about that piece of gear that you already have, and then see if you feel more inspired or like, oh shit, I didn't know that about this particular device. I didn't realize that it could do that. Try that out. Tip number 4 is to minimize your workspace. and just start playing and exploring with limitation. Limitation is super good for coming up with ideas. Like if you're feeling stuck, just get rid of all your stuff. Get everything out of your way and just start with one thing. Think back to a time whenever you were creating the most amount of music. When was the time whenever you were doing the most of it? For me, it was whenever I had an old 2008 MacBook and I had like an Oxygen 25 MIDI controller. That was it. And I was using Reason at the time, and I was creating just like tracks and tracks, so much music, so much stuff. I didn't know how an envelope worked. I didn't know what an LFO was. I was just like clicking through presets and I was just making music. And the more I learned and the more gear that I acquired, I started making less and less music. And I learned a lot and I understand how things work. And sometimes I think that I can even pick out a synth whenever I'm listening to songs that I like. I'm like, oh, I know what that is, right? But just you don't need it. Minimize your space. Tip number 5, which sort of piggybacks off of the last one, is to shelve your items. So get it off of your desk, move it out of your workspace, and put it away. Put it away for like a month. And if you still feel that you're not needing it, then sell it. That'll provide you the money so that you can get something new and you don't have to spend any extra money. So it's sort of like a wash. That's kind of like the best case scenario. Right now, I have taken everything off of my desk. I had all this shit on my desk and I was trying to get everything to talk. I wanted the drum machine and the mono synth and the poly synth all to talk to each other, trying to make the instruments work instead of sitting down and seeing if I could come up with a cool idea. Now I just have my interface, my push, my DBX compressor, and my MacBook. That's it. And what I found is that I can just load up a drum rack in Ableton with like 7 samples and I'm already like writing like 75% of a track. I didn't need any of all that stuff that's on my desk. So I have it in the closet. And I set up a nice space, so I'm treating it nicely. I've got like a nice shelf and it's all organized and I can see everything. I bought the pegboard so that I have all my cables there. And if I'm not using this stuff in like a month or 2 months, then I'll get rid of it. And maybe I'll buy something like a new lens for my camera. And through that process, I'll be working on new music and making more music. Just something to think about. I've got a bonus tip, but my camera's dying, so I'm gonna pause this. I'm back. Tip number 6. This is a bonus tip, and I think I've talked about this in previous videos, but this is a trick that I like to use that prevents me from buying future gear. So if you feel so compelled to buy something, then buy the last version of the thing, whatever it is. Put a block up. Block yourself from being able to make the next purchase. So if you buy something, then you can go like, all right, I bought this thing and I can't buy anything around it. This is the last one that I got. For me, right, I do like analog and I'm really interested in that. So I bought the MS-20 Mini and that's my block. So anytime that I start like looking at like, ooh, look at that. Ooh, the SEO2. That's interesting. It's kind of like that's cheap, it's small, it's analog. Oh, the Matrix Brute. Oh, they've got the Nor edition and they're black. That's so beautiful. I wear all black, so I need that one. No, you don't, because you have the MS-20 and that's your block. Is this making sense? Right? Like tip number 6 is to have a block that is in the way and prevents you from getting anything else. I have an album that I dropped with my partner, Abigail Batiste, and it's called Third Order Sim. And it's just 2 tracks. I think we did like, it's Model Cycles and then the Novation Circuit Rhythm, and I loaded some samples on there. And then we just sort of jammed out for a while. And we have 2 tracks that came from that. And I think it's pretty cool. I also have another album that I wrote like maybe about a year ago called Precipice. Check that one out too if you get a chance. It's on Bandcamp. And then I think I said this in the beginning, but I'm going to say it again. If you have music on Bandcamp, send it to me. I want to listen to what you're working on. And then also, yeah, don't buy anything new. Just finish a project. I got to go. It's time for me to go. I hope that hope you have a good week. And yeah, send me your Bandcamp. Send me your Bandcamp.